Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. Well, last night you might have watched, we did the live hangout autumn beers, and then I had a system failure, but I knew it wasn't my system. Somebody said I need a serious upgrade. No, I never had problems on these hangouts, really. It was Windows 10 issue, and I couldn't avoid that. What it was doing was what it needed to do, but it just was a bad time for it to do it. So it was irritating. But I was able to hear what they were saying the whole time, but my speed crashed. I had no internet speed during the hangout, which made it very problematic. But I could hear everything, and naturally, about 2 minutes after we got off the hangout, then it cleared up, and I got an alert what was going on. So that's great. But that will happen. Maxwell, good morning. Ron, good morning to you, Maxwell, over there in the Russian Federation. But it was a good hangout last night. People brought interesting autumn beers, mostly very good. Some were not loved, but that's going to happen. You grab something and try it, and might be great, might not be. Here's an example. Flacco's beer reviews. Good morning. Good morning to you, Flacco. Good hearing from you. But this Lord Calvert, it's a new bottle design. About 2 years ago, they came out with the new bottle design, which is actually pretty much the old 1960s fancy bottle. But for many years, they had the cylindrical, say the last 20 years, the cylindrical bottle, Beam-Suntory's style. Simple, basic. In the 1960s, it was heavily promoted by Seagram's. Seagram's introduced it in '64, but I have evidence showing that it had been on way before the 60s, maybe the 50s and 40s and 30s, even 1930s. Now I know some people are going to say, no, that's the Lord Calvert from Baltimore, Maryland. That's the American one. Yes, I know about that. But the bottle I saw says Canadian whiskey, and it's an old cork with a cage, and it said Calvert Distilling, same company. So I can't explain that, but I think that a lot of these companies, their record keeping is flawed, and they don't even know. You say, no, a company knows. A company knows. You would think so, but like look at Ancient Age. They'll tell you right there on their website, Ancient Age has been on the market since 1946, when it's clearly been on the market since 36. There's a 10-year mistake. I can prove that easily. I had a issue with Anheuser-Busch InBev. Well, it's Anheuser-Busch. Years ago, they were talking about Bud Ice, and they were talking about how Bud Ice hit the market in 1984. Absolutely incorrect. I wrote them an email and said that it was 94, not 84. And so their representative said, I'm going to research that and see what you're talking about. And about 2 days later, I got an email that said, you're right. We made a mistake, and they fixed it, see. But anyway, I don't need labels on these. I put labels at the bottom, but I don't know why. I should not have, because this is golden. Like I say, from 1964 and probably before that. It's now a Luxco brand. It's had 3 owners. There's the crest. Stereotypical Canadian whiskey, the crown for the Kingdom of Canada. Well, they call it the Dominion of Canada. They don't use the word kingdom. Well, that's another story. But then the flag, looking like the Union Jack flag, sort of, and the Union flag, and then the maple leaf, and lions, you know, the royal family. This is dark. Look at that. That's dark. Now, is it going to really be that dark? 12 years in a used barrel? Probably not. Do they add caramel color? Probably. But anyway, it doesn't matter. This is a brown fork. Always say that. A Canadian Beam-Suntory brand. Beam-Suntory. So Calvert, Lord Calvert, was owned by Seagram's. Oh, let's see, the Canadian Seagram's. It may have been owned by the original Calvert, but I don't think. Let's be on the safe side. Seagram's. Then they sold it to Beam. Beam didn't want it, and they sold it to Luxco about 4 years ago. And there's American produced Calvert Extra. So you can get the Calvert Extra. That's from the United States, American blended whiskey. We tried it at John and Eli's house. It was pretty good for American blended. You can get the Lord Calvert, which I have. You can get the Lord Calvert Black, which is a new one, been on the market about 2 years, in the fancy black bottle. Gosh, should have bought it. And you can get the Lord Calvert Peach, peach whiskey liqueur. All right. The Canadian Club Classic 12 small batch, aged 12 years, has been on the market since 1984. They've revamped it. It's a new bottle and label. It's fancier looking now, nicer looking, I guess. I think so. But it has been around for 35 years. It's going to cost more than Calvert. Lord Calvert cost me $10.99. Lord Calvert, the first Lord Baltimore. The Calvert family established Baltimore in the province of Maryland, the colony of Maryland. But anyway, that's another story. But there it is. This is going to cost you about $24. Lord Calvert I got for $10.99. So we're talking about, let's round off, 11 and 24. So the Canadian Club is going to cost you over twice as much. It's aged 4 times as long, 12 years as opposed to 3. Is that a real cork? Nah, it's rubber. And I've had some viewers say the rubberized is actually better than the cork because the corks can dry rot and fall apart. Yeah, well, that happened to me. I had that 1983 bottle of Wild Turkey that had been aged 8 years, 1975 to 83. And I went to take it off. It had been sitting there so long, it crumbled. Somebody said you should have turned the whiskey upside down and let the whiskey soak in cork to give it some, moisture for maybe an hour, then open it. Well, I didn't think of that. I didn't know it was dry rotted. Ronnie, how do you nap during the days? Not very easily normally. I'll lay down for 10 minutes and I'll say it to myself, 10 minutes, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes. Normally I'll just lay there and after 10 minutes I'll just get up. Sometimes I'll actually fall asleep. But not too much. But just laying there makes me feel better after I eat lunch. Okay, so we can see the coloring. Mahogany and gold. This what I'm showing you, the Calvert Gold. That's the normal Canadian blended whiskey color. If you get Crown Royal, okay, for instance, the most famous Canadian whiskey, it's going to be that color. If you get this, it's this. But this is not the normal. You don't see this too much, but it's around. It's around. They don't even sell Canadian Club at Mathern's. There's an example. Mathern's, they don't sell Canadian Club. Walmart doesn't sell it. I think the only place I can get Canadian Club in this town is at Old Time Saver, just a little corner store, which is, you say that's a dump. That store's like a little dump. It is. It used to have a gas station, but they have unusual products like this. Canadian Club, not the 12-year Canadian Club. They also they're the only store that sells Ice House Edge, or at least they were the last time I checked. Ice House Edge. My eye was, see, it's red. It's healing up now. But hurt like hell this morning. So I appreciate the Old Time Saver because it got stuff I can't get anywhere else. Canadian Club might be really popular where you live. It is not popular at all where I live. And in fact, you can't even find it in most stores. Lord Calvert, you can't find it all. I found that one bottle left over. It's not sold in this town. The most popular whiskey in Louisiana, Crown Royal. Crown Royal, more popular than Jack Daniels. True story. Crown Royal, by any estimation. Crown Royal is the ruler here. Where is that Time Saver? Look here. I might check them out. It's on Carrollwood Drive back toward Belterre Country Club. Get off of US 61 airline, go down Carrollwood. Just stay on it. by Jones Daycare. You'll see it. And yeah, they have a lot of closeout liquor, like stuff that they're trying to get rid of. Like they must buy it on auction. I think they have auctions for these liquors, and you can get good deals. Okay, I'm familiar with it. Thanks. Okay, so I'm gonna close my eyes and mix these up because it won't take but a glance and I'll know which is which. I'm gonna know which is which anyway. The Canadian Club 12 year, the classic 12, is oakier, darker. You're gonna get a lot of charred wood relative to other Canadian whiskeys, and a lot more wood. My friend David actually liked it. He was giving me a hard time yesterday on the phone saying, yeah, I saw your review of that Lord Calvert. I said, and? He said, you only live once. Why you want to drink all those cheap things, man? I said, I saw it at the store. He said, I know you bought it at that Value Saver in Marrero. I said, well, you know, I saw it and I bought it. I said, you could try it one day. We'll do a video review. He said, perhaps. He has no interest in trying it, which is fine with me. Doesn't matter to me. He was interested in trying the Canadian Club 12 year, though. He really liked it. But anyway, he's very picky about whiskey. Very picky. Actually, most of the $60 bottles he buys, he ends up saying he doesn't really like them. You say, well, why is he so picky? Well, I don't know, but does he have a right to be picky? Well, sure, you have a right to be picky if you're buying it. I've even talked about that with beer, people being beer snobs. Well, you have a right to be a beer snob. You know, I mean, you can hate what you want to hate. It doesn't matter. If you say, well, I hate Budweiser and I'm going to keep hating it. Well, that's fine. It makes no difference to me. I'm telling you, I don't hate it. Okay, I already think this is the Canadian Club 12 year, the classic 12. But I'm not quite sure, but I think so. Let's go over here. I'm going to explain why. This has a stronger wood aroma. Now, they both have that candy corn and rock candy aroma. All right. If you don't like sugar and sweetness, Canadian whiskey is going to gag you, you know, because these Canadian whiskeys have a strong candy aroma and flavor, even more than American whiskey. So they're very candy-like. If you drink bourbon, American bourbon, even that tastes like candy to me, but it's very corn-oriented. So it'll have more of a corn grits, like eating a bowl of Quaker grits minus the salt. So that's what differentiates Canadian whiskey. They used to call it rye. Supposedly has a higher rye content. Probably not the case today. Don't know. Canadian whiskey is allowed to have flavorings added. Bourbon is strictly forbidden to have that. Canadian whiskey can have coloring added. Bourbon cannot, unless it's blended bourbon. You say blended bourbon? What the? Yeah, that's a class of whiskey, believe it or not, called blended bourbon. It exists. It exists. 10 High is an example. I see 10 High at Walmart every time I go to Walmart. 10 High. Somebody's buying it because they got the big jugs and I can see it's rotating. Talk about an oddity, huh? All right, so wood, huh? That is some candy. It's like you took candy, like I don't know, some hard candy, and you melted it down, you know, and it became like a syrup. That's what it smells like. Well, the taste isn't that, but I think I'm picking up more oak, more wood. 12 years, 3 years, 4 times the amount, over twice the price. $24, $11. John and Nilly gave me that Canadian Classic 12, Canadian Club Classic 12. Thank you, John and Nilly. That was a nice gift. All right. Uh, hmm. Haha. That tastes so much like candy. And I know a lot of people have a sweet tooth and they'll complain about whiskey. They're like, oh, it's got that whiskey flavor, that alcohol flavor. It turns me off. These Canadian whiskeys you might not mind because some of them have like a candy flavor. I swear, it's like alcohol rock candy. It's almost like you could take this Canadian Club, no, this Lord Calvert, and put it in some hot tea, and it would sweeten it so it wouldn't be so bitter. I mean, it wouldn't really work, but it would seem like it. You'd have to add honey. I always add honey to hot tea. It's better than sugar, but I mean, I'll add sugar, of course, but talking about honey, I said that the Lord Calvert had a honey taste, but I don't know. This is tasting like more of that wood and caramel syrup. What did I say? What Canadian Club had that dark molasses, blackstrap molasses, something like that? I don't know, man. When you do a blind taste test, it's a whole different world. A whole different world. You think you know? I know my CC. I know this. I know that. Yeah. But do it blind and get ready for a ride. And I was talking, like I said, I was talking to Eric, a Lions fan. He doesn't talk to me much. He'll talk to me if I talk to him, but I think he'd rather if I didn't talk to him. But that's okay because if we're friends, quote unquote, on Facebook, I'm gonna keep talking to you. And if you don't like it, you know what to do. You know what to do. It's a sign of weakness, but you can do it. You know what I'm saying? You can do it. He used to be really chummy, hey Ron, and people start acting funny. But I'm different. I always communicate with people, like James P. Madonna, when there was that trouble earlier this year, I immediately contacted him. Well, I contacted him and said, what's the trip? What is your trip? And basically, and I let him sit on it for a while, when he did his craziness. I let him sit on it. So I'm gonna let him see what happens. But I communicate with people, and he was very happy I contacted him. And he said, I'm sorry what I did, and all. But so maybe that's a Southern thing, like people in the South, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas, even. They're different. They communicate, you know what I'm saying? Up north, they're more like in England. They're standoffish, funny about stuff. That's just what I find, don't want to communicate. I think that's why no, I'm just joking. I was going to say that's why the United States broke away from England, because they didn't want to communicate. They sent them a bunch of messages and they didn't respond. They said, okay, well, you don't want to respond, we out. But in the South, that's like the most egregious insult. When somebody talks to you and you don't respond, that's a real serious, extremely serious, etiquette problem. I was talking to Jeremy in Arkansas. He said, that's a real serious issue. I don't go for that. And almost like down here, it's better if somebody curses you to your face and then ignore you. That's a real problem. It's like, it's considered a grave insult. And up north, I think that's just how people act normally. It's something that's strange. But anyway, but down here, if you don't address somebody, it's a serious insult. And of course, if somebody insults your family, that's a guaranteed war, because people in the South generally come from the Cavaliers of England. Remember the English Civil War? You had the Roundheads, which were the Puritans, the Calvinists. more modern. And then you had the Cavaliers, which were more the English aristocratic traditionalists. Modernism versus traditionalism, get it? And the southern states generally came from that part of England. What was the southeastern part? The Cavaliers, the Stuarts, James the First, Charles the First, and then your New England states came more from the Roundheads, the Calvinists, you know. So there was a lot of cultural problems in America still today, but even back to then, back to the 1860s, very serious cultural issues. You remember the attack in the Senate, was the Senate, right? Where that Yankee congressman was ranting and raving about the South. And he said some very vicious things about the southern states, implying things, you know, like their morals were bad or their women were suspect and things like that. And then one of the senators from South Carolina said, well, okay. And he attacked him with a cane. Remember that? He attacked him with a cane in the Senate and beat him in the head. He didn't want to do it. He didn't believe in violence, but it was sort of like one of those family things, you know. It's people all around the South sending canes, gold canes, you know. That's a collector's item. But anyway, I like to talk about those cultural issues. Oh, this is a real conundrum here, though. You say you're just stalling. That's why you're talking about all that. You're stalling. I am stalling because I'm a little nervous. I thought $24 bottle versus $11 bottle, it's a cinch. It's a slam dunk, no kind of contest. But actually, it isn't so. So we're right there, we got the answer. If a $24 bottle is giving you trouble relative to an $11 bottle, and a 12-year age is giving you trouble relative to a 3-year age, there you go. Is Calvert, Lord Calvert, a lot better than you would expect? That seems to be the case that they gave me. Seems to be the case because I'm not picking up an incredible difference in quality. I'm not, which is a concern. But I do think this is the Calvert because of the more overt candy notes, and this is the Canadian Club because of the more covert candy notes. But it's troubling. I'm going to say, as far as flavor and enjoyment level and quality level, it's a tie. Virtually a tie. Which means what? We know what it means. It means Calvert wins by default. You say price shouldn't matter. Price does matter. You got to buy it. I got to buy it. Now, if somebody bought all your liquor and beer and wine for you and you never had to pay for it, sure, price wouldn't matter. But that doesn't happen. So it does matter. So anyway, interesting, fascinating, puzzling, though. Difficult, very difficult. This is a real challenge. Very serious challenge. So I'm going to say this is Canadian Club 12-year. My confidence level is not terribly high. Not terribly high. So let's see. It is. I got it right, but it was hell to get. Ron, do you get a buzz after testing these stuffs? Well, it's not too severe because we're only talking about little bits, you know. A small amount of liquor, but still, you have to be careful. You're going to feel it if you think or you imagine that it's not going to affect you. You're living in a fantasy world, really. So don't believe that. It is going to affect you. Now, little sips aren't, but it will. So you've heard the old saying, discretion is the better part of valor. So be discreet, be careful, be wary when you're doing this. Alcohol is like fire. It's useful but dangerous. Useful but dangerous. Fire is useful. I just cooked some eggs, 2 scrambled eggs with some meat and cheese for breakfast. The fire was useful. It cooked the food. Is it dangerous? Yeah, you can burn your house down with it or burn yourself with it. Alcohol is useful. Has many uses. It's a valuable product, but it's dangerous. We've seen that. But it's a neutral object. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a product. You got some people will say alcohol is evil. No, alcohol is a product. It's like a brick or a doorknob. It can be neither good nor bad. It's a neutral object. It's the use thereof which can be evil or good. Or it could be irresponsible. So we could say that Canadian Club is better, the 12 years. We can make that argument. But from what I've found with and I was talking about Erica Lyons fan. I went on that big rant about the communication issue, North versus South, England versus Americans, so forth. But he was telling me he didn't see the value in a blind taste test. Because I asked him, I said, would you, because he was doing an open-eyed taste test of Mickey's fine malt liquor versus Mickey's ice brewed ale. He said, no, I don't see the value in it. But this is an example right here this morning of the very important value of blind taste tests. Because if you know what you're drinking, then you know what I'm saying? You're looking at the labels. That is a very serious variable that we want to factor out. If you don't know, then you don't know. I mixed them up so well, I didn't know. I had some suspicions based on the aroma and the taste. And that's what it's supposed to be based on, the aroma and taste, not the preconceived notions or the subconscious bias and all that. You say, oh, Lord, he's talking about, he must follow Sigmund Freud. He's talking about the subconscious mind. I'm not a fan of Sigmund Freud. I could say a lot of negative things about that. But I think he had some validity what he was saying, that you have a subconscious mind. Like you have awareness that you're not aware of, you know what I'm saying? Or thoughts that you don't realize you have. And that leads to psychological issues, like denial, where people will deny things, right? I don't have a drinking problem, they'll say. They clearly do, but they'll deny it, Oh, no, it's not true. You have a problem. That's projection, where they project onto other people things, thoughts that they have. They'll say, you're racist, you're racist. Well, it's probably them that are racist, you see. But anyway, you have that. But nonetheless, blind taste tests, I'm going to always champion that because it's valid, it's important, and it's useful. Right? Remember the Pepsi challenge? The Pepsi challenge? It was blind, wasn't it? It wasn't double blind, which would be better, but it was blind, and it did show some things that in an initial tasting, people preferred Pepsi over Coke. Although, if you read the study carefully, over extended drinking, after the initial few sips, as people drink through we're talking about in the old days of Pepsi and Coke being made with cane sugar, not the high fructose corn syrup days that we've been dealing with for 28 years, 20 something years. You got to get the sugar Coke, the sugar Pepsi, which you can buy, you can find. As the people drank the glasses down, then Coke started to win. The initial rush of flavor, the first couple of sips, and that's all the Pepsi challenge was. Take a sip here, take a sip there. What do you think's better? But as they drank through the cans or the bottles, then the Coke began to take over and become a better quality product in the people's thinking. Blind taste test. Why? They found that the Pepsi was cloying and became more unpleasant as they drank down, drink it down, drink it down. Blind taste test. All right. I don't see many people doing that on the internet. They'll do just a taste test. I saw it yesterday. They were doing pumpkin versus nitro pumpkin. That's fine. You know, that's fine. But it's not the same. It is not the same as a blind taste test. It cannot be the same. Have you tried the famous grouse? No. But I've seen it many times. Many times. And I intend to get it at some point in the future. Now, I'm 51 years old. I might be 61 before I get it because my backlog is deep. If you see this backlog, you're going to understand why I have to go slow. It's too much. So anyway, very fascinating. You might not think so, but itchy nose. Fascinating because I thought it was going to be a clear cut that fast. But it wasn't. And when I start going off on topics, talking about Roundheads and Cavaliers and North versus South and all that, then you know I'm starting to get nervous. I know you're nervous. And the reason I'm getting nervous when I do that is because I can't really tell them apart and I'm not sure. And I'm stalling. And the reason I have to stall is I'm trying to think it out. So this is the second video. Lord Calvert, I did the solo review and it was really good. And I gave it an A-, 92 out of 100. And the performance level is there. It's still winning. It wins by default today. Can't say it tastes better than Canadian Club 12, Classic 12. But it's certainly as good as evidenced by this video. And for $11 versus $24, I think we know where I'd be going on that purchasing endeavor. So don't judge a whiskey by its price point and don't judge whiskey by its bottle because you may be very wrong. So I'm very pleased, very pleased. How's Lord Calvert going to do against Heir to the Throne in 2 days? Now this is a prediction. You can mark that and hold me to it. I think it's going to destroy Heir to the Throne. Heir to the Throne is $16 a bottle, which is about $10 too expensive. I don't even think it exists anymore. I bought it at Walmart. The only time I ever saw it in my life. It has so many off flavors and aromas. Like you start thinking through it and you say, what is this? Something's wrong here. And definitely. And then the next one coming up, I believe on Sunday, is the Gibson's. This caused a lot of friction between me and Canadian people. Gibson's Rare 12-year. Gibson's Finest. They were very offended that I didn't like it. In the solo review, I liked it. When I put it in taste challenges, it crashed and burned. It did so poorly. It was so bad, actually, in taste challenges. And that's where the rubber hits the road. I think Lord Calvert will destroy Gibson's Finest Rare. And that's aged 12 years. That's how bad a beating it's going to get. And I'm sorry, I don't make these products. I'm just reviewing them, okay? I don't work for these companies. I buy the stuff and I'm trying it. I'm giving you an honest answer. If the Canadian people are going to get angry at me because I say Gibson's is not that good, I'm sorry. I have to say that, okay? I have to say it if I intended to have integrity, and I intend to have that. Thanks for watching this video production. And I'll see y'all down the road. And the road is not, it's going to be soon. So see you soon.